Hey, Ben, I remember a few months back when my kid came to me, who is a pitcher. He's 10 years old, and he came to me saying that he was starting to have discomfort in his elbow, aka growth plate. And that's when I hit up my buddy, the creator of the kinetic arm. And I brought my son in there, and he gave my son the K2, the youth version.
The kinetic arm sleeve is the first and only athletic sleeve designed to stabilize the shoulder and the elbow while throwing and swinging. So I can see how that was both preventative for him, took a little pain away, and then also helped him heal and recover.
And it helps their mechanics. His form's better.
The kinetic arm, I mean, there's really nothing like it. It goes beyond compression, and it's actually proven to reduce arm stress. It is the only movement arm brace that functionally stabilizes the arm while in motion. And that's really where you get the damage, is by repetitively doing the same thing over and over again.
I don't know how it works exactly, but I do know it works. So check it out. You can go to thekинeticarm.com, use promo code ManFUzed, ManFUzed. You'll get 10% off that way. Or you can get the link in our episode descriptions on the podcast. When it comes to the bedroom, it's all about confidence. So if you look at athletes and you look at people who go to the gym, they're quick to take performance-enhancing products. But why is it a stigma if you're going to take something that gives you a throbbing erection? At Blue Chew, you can get chewables with the same active ingredient as Viagra and Cialis.
And now they have a mint-flavored chewable with the active ingredient as in Levitra and Staxin.
So you can stay hard
and fresh.
And to get Blue Chew is simple, and it ships right to your door.
Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical professionals, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days.
Here's a special deal for our listeners. You can try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code ManFUzed. ManFUzed. Just pay $5 for the shipping. That's at BlueChew.com to receive your first month free. Hey, Ben, you ready?
I'm ready to roll.
Hey, this is the ManFUzed Podcast. Kay Lee here, your host, audio producer, voice artist, my co-host, real estate man, broker, Ben H. Today on the ManFUzed Podcast, we're going to break down some of the things that make men and women so different in the way they act and in the way they dress. We're going to be talking to, his name is Chris Tuff. He is a best-selling author, and he's a highly sought-after keynote speaker. His name is Chris Tuff. He is a best-selling author, and he's a highly sought-after keynote speaker.
You know, a lot of people say, like, outside of the box, you know?
I think that's where I live.
I don't even have a fucking box.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you do either.
No, I don't either.
We don't even have boxes.
We're out of boxes.
We're out of boxes
We're
completely.
just out. So we're out of our minds.
That becomes a gift and a curse, ultimately.
Absolutely.
You know? If you're one of these people like me and Kay Lee that's just completely outside of everything conventional,
normal.
Everything normal.
We hate the N-word that is normal.
If you are just like that, and
that's
honestly,
cool.
Not a whole lot of folks are, and in many days of my life, I wish I wasn't. But I will say that on the other side of it, if you can figure it out, it's a beautiful thing and it's a lot of fun.
Which leads me into, I have a question, Ben.
Okay.
Would you consider this normal? Now, the scenario I'm about to read you, we're going to flip-flop it, okay? So, a woman has gone viral after revealing that a groom, her groom, day of the wedding, was caught being breastfed by his mother on the wedding day.
I got nothing for him. I always try to stick up for the dudes, but in this case...
Some people, even on Instagram or whatever, it's like, oh, this is made up. But... there have been instances of, on the Burt Show, we've had a woman that still latches onto her mom's boob because it's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
The fact that the mom is in her 50s and the daughter is in her late 20s.
Right.
Weird.
I mean,
weird. Now, if the roles were reversed, okay.
Talking about sucking on man boobs?
No. If you, Ben H, had prepared the wedding of y'all's dreams.
Yeah, as it was.
You're in the man cave getting ready with all your best men.
Right.
And let's say seeing the bride before the wedding wasn't a thing for you, and you didn't care and she didn't care.
Yeah.
And you walked in to be like, hey, this is going down with, some of our guests or something, and you walked in, or your soon-to-be wife was sucking on her mom's boob. What would you do? Now
turn around and walk out.
Right.
I'd just stop talking and turn around and walk out. Never to be spoken of again.
Yeah, I would have some questions.
No, I mean, obviously, I'd be like, WTF.
Well, she, in this particular case, ended up marrying the guy anyway, which is weird.
They're going to have issues.
To say mama's boy would be putting it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to have...
If mama's whooping out the boob for her son, don't think you'll ever be first in his eyes.
I think it's already tough enough. I mean, honestly, what I've noticed, just in my experience observing humanity, is that the women really have a tough time with one another in families. I mean, typically the guys are the guys. I mean, guys are pretty simple. We're more bound to fall in love with each other than we are to dislike one another. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're more likely to become friends. You could be a completely different person than me, and we're going to find some way to talk about something, whether it's mulch or beer or football or fucking airplanes or whatever.
Mulch.
Dudes are going to figure out how to become boys.
Oh, I see you went with the dark red mulch.
Yeah, exactly.
The dog dick red color. That's very nice.
That.
I've got the doo-doo brown at my house.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How many truckloads did you get? Oh, it was about 2 tons.
Exactly. Wow, 2 tons. Where'd you get it from?
Oh, yeah.
How much did it cost?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Who spread it for you? You did that yourself?
Man,
yeah,
that took
I picked
you
up
about
some guys from down the street to help me.
That took you about 8 hours.
Exactly.
Did you use a pitchfork or a shovel?
And we're wearing sweatpants and t-shirt. We don't give a shit. In the meantime, the girls have gotten completely dressed up for one another.
They're judging.
They're eyeing and judging one another and paying attention to every word that's being muttered.
Right.
To them or from the other side of the room.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, like, yes. They're absorbing all the conversations and they're looking at the wedding ring and they're going, oh.
Right.
Like they're judging the wedding ring.
Exactly.
Okay, I know how much about that costs.
Are there any bills on the counter?
Right. All right. Am I going to stare at them? Does there look like a collection notice?
I saw a collection notice on their counter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they must not be doing too well.
Right. They must be on the verge of death.
Yeah.
And the girls see a photo.
Or did you see that new car? What an asshole.
Or right. or they're looking at a photo and they're zooming in to see everything in the background.
Right. And honestly, the funny thing is like, okay, so you take, and I'm not cracking on women. I love women.
I am. I love them too, but I want to go in hard on them.
So so here's another one. If you take a picture of 10 girls, okay, 10 girls. Take a picture.
Separately or all in one photo?
All in one photo. They're all lined up next to each other. There's 10 girls in the photo. You text that photo to each one of the 10 girls. What does every one of them do right when they get the photo?
Zoom in on themselves?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a funny thing to actually have the screens like on a monitor where we could see it, you know what I'm saying? Like side by side, and then send the text, bing, and then watch them all zoom in on their own face.
Uh-huh.
That'd be hilarious, dude.
Yeah, it would.
That'd be hilarious.
Like a test.
It's not, oh, that's a great picture of us all. That may come later. That may eventually get there.
Right.
But the first 2 seconds
are zooming in on their...
fervently zooming.
Did they get me at the right angle?
Yeah, because if this thing goes up on social media and I'm not sporting my angle
or have a filter on it.
Or maybe I got a turkey neck going on. Like, what is going on?
Maybe my gizzard is
Maybe
showing.
my gillet's hanging.
My goiter. Wait,
Maybe I
hold
got
on.
a gillet flopping.
Yeah.
Like a turkey. Like sleeve of wizard.
Yeah. Maybe my vagine is hanging like sleeve of wizard.
Yeah. But dude, nowadays, I mean, you know, you want to talk about a trend that has just absolutely set the world on fire. And one that I think men all over the place are grateful for. Well, at least if you live in an area that has beautiful women.
Okay.
Which we do.
Yeah.
The South, if nobody knows, if you live up north somewhere, you live somewhere other than the southeastern United States, you must know that here in the southeastern United States, we have beautiful women.
Beautiful.
And they love yoga pants.
They love Lululemon.
Bro, and these yoga pants are getting tighter and tighter.
Have you seen...
Now there's like an ass crack trend.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the ass crack trend?
Yeah.
Like the motherfucker has got to be all the way up your ass so that each of your cheeks is like hanging.
Separate. It's
Separate
like
cheeks.
Separate cheeks.
Separate cheeks now.
Right.
That's the thing now.
And here's the thing, Hen. Have you seen the ones that almost look like skin? So they almost look like they're naked.
Oh, yeah, the color?
Yeah.
The skin color. Dude, I have stopped my car. You got to be kidding me right now. This is amazing. And I'll also say, one of the interesting things about women's fashion that has always baffled me, okay, is the difference between a bathing suit and regular clothing. In other words, okay, there's all these rules around what's this and what's that and what's provocative and what's not.
Well, isn't that to each their own, though?
Any girl is going to go to the pool and put on a bikini. No problem. You see what I'm saying? And walk out in front of everybody. And it's no big deal. You know what I mean? And that's their swimsuit. But dude, that is literally the same as a bra and panties. If you saw,
absolutely.
If you saw a girl in her bra and panties, though, she is running and gunning. She's trying to hide. She's trying to get out of like a stranger. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If she's in her bra and panties, it's like...
Well, there are some bra and there are some panties that could be more revealing than others.
I mean, just standard, basic, you know, everyday.
Grandma panties?
No, just, you know, your everyday thing. I mean, maybe a girl wears a thong and a bra.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, that's not that big of a difference from, I mean, sure, if it's see-through lace.
Well, right.
But
if
most
it's,
of the daily shit is not like see-through lace.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful, but I'm just saying, how different is that from a bikini versus...
The clit of life isn't hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe it is. Maybe you see that camel toe. That camel toe, which is a new trend too. Dude, the camel toe's a trend.
What about the moose knuckle? Is that
the moose knuckle? I mean, whatever you got, bro. It's like
the monkey paw?
Show the crack. It's like show the whole outline, basically.
On the front and back.
The front and back. Show the W.
I wanted the designer. It's like, okay, we need to make sure we tuck it in on the front,
dude,
so the camel toe is announced.
I'm telling you.
And then on the back, we need the ass cheeks separated.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Bring in the cut.
Yeah.
Bring in the cut some more.
That's right. Exactly. And so, whereas personally, I will say that to me, nothing is more provocative than like a short skirt. She's wearing a bathing suit. I can see everything that I couldn't see.
But you know what I always like? You know what revs my engine, Ben?
Tell me.
Like a Thunderbird.
Yeah.
With a V8.
Yeah.
An old one.
Yeah.
Not the 1996.
No, the 1956.
I really like, and my wife's got a beautiful butt, and if her dad's listening, thank you for that. It's part of nature. But I love...
Mine was too. My wife was blessed too.
I love like boy shorts. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I know exactly.
Yeah. I love little boy shorts.
But they're not like boy shorts. Like
I don't know why they call them
cheerleader
that.
shorts. You know, they're like they're like workout shorts, but they're too small.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're too small.
Where the ass is eating the short.
The ass is eating the short, and it's just I agreed.
I don't know what guy doesn't like
that. And it's something about the texture of the cotton material that is sexier than like
a silk.
Yeah, exactly. The something about that just basic cotton.
Well, it's like almost like it's textured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a t-shirt material.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But almost like, you know what I can relate that
jeez.
to? And this is going to date me back to when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And when I was 5 years old, 4 years old, I sucked my thumb.
Was that your first boyfriend?
Yes. My finger.
Mr. Turtle.
No, Mr. Turtle.
But Mr. Turtle.
But just like my daughters were attached to their blankets, I think did Jack have one?
Yeah.
But I remember having this cotton turtle blanket, dude,
Right.
and petting that thing over and over because of the way that
Right.
it felt.
Right.
Just like a boy short.
like a
Maybe
boy short.
subconsciously.
I don't want to call it a boy short.
All right.
Yeah.
Does it
I
make
don't
you
know.
feel
Just,
weird?
Yeah, it skeeves me out. I'm getting Epstein vibes over here.
Okay.
You know, just feeling like.
You like boys?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
You
I
like
can't-
little
I
boys?
can't call them boy shorts anymore.
We call them little
scarred.
boy shorts.
It's so wrong.
It is.
No,
We don't-
but I mean, I call them cheerleader shorts.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I. That's,
Okay,
that's
well,
how I know them.
From now on, we'll never be referred to as a little boy short.
and like you take the cheerleader shorts, and then you do like a like kind of a crop top kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Just basic.
Dress him
Just
up like a
around the
football
house.
player and chase him around.
Yeah. Just around the house, dude, and you feel like, you know, I don't know, something about it is just so provocative.
It is.
It just it makes that wild it makes that wild monkey scream.
Do you think our wives were sitting down here right now
Yeah.
in front of the microphone
Yeah.
and they were talking? Do you think that they would be comparing
Oh, I love it when I see his
what
dick print.
yeah. There's something
When
about
it's completely flaccid.
there's something about him laying in bed and he's sitting there watching TV and he's just got his hands down his pants and he's touching it.
Oh my God.
It's something that just turns me on.
I love it when you're eating in the bed and you have crumbs on your chest.
Yeah. God, just
Makes me want to just nibble those crumbs up.
oh my God. What would their conversations be like? Oh, he's fucking gross.
It's a whole different world, man. They live in a different universe. They live in the universe where, so like as men, I'm not saying that men aren't sexy. Obviously,
We are
there are plenty of sexy men out there
like ourselves.
like us. And yet at the same time, you know, we live in this world where it's just like we get to completely indulge ourselves
In not caring.
in a woman's- well, that too, but I mean, in just the beauty of a woman. I mean, it's just so fucking, and it's like the woman has the pressure of like, I guess having to keep that up to an extent.
But I feel like that is society
Yeah.
has taught them that they have to.
Yeah.
And that's something they feel they have to when they really don't have to.
they
Now,
don't
granted,
have to.
I don't want some woman that's completely unkept and
Right.
doesn't absolutely, but I don't need a face full of makeup every day.
Well, there's nothing dirtier than a dirty girl. Remember that shit.
Right, I've heard
Yeah.
that. I've heard that saying from
that's
you.
disgusting.
And you have seen it firsthand.
Oh, yeah, let's not get into it. Human hygiene, just the hygiene of human beings. I mean, when you are in a tent for months and months and months,
Guy or girl.
anybody, I mean, just the
You've got swamp ass.
But it is different for a man and a woman. Very different, you know.
I think women expect guys to smell like shit and be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just have a lot more to take care of. And then for women, you know, it's like males are, I don't know, it's just a different world. I guess I don't understand it, you know? What is it about men that's sexy to women?
well, I guess it depends on the individual woman and the individual man that they find sexy. Now,
Like I've heard confidence though is a big one.
Oh, confidence is-
Confidence, you know, like I want confidence in a man. A guy can be, you know, an average looking dude, but if he has confidence
And
around
swagger.
himself and he has confidence around his career and confidence around his life and his power and his energy, that's going to be very attractive to a very attractive woman. You know what I mean?
right. Or, and you've seen this play out time and time again. And I guess confidence would come in to play here. Sense of humor.
Yes.
Funny.
Yes.
Because I've seen the ugliest
Yeah.
of dudes
Yeah.
take down the hottest of women.
Absolutely.
Because they made her laugh.
And that's a confidence thing too, bro. Takes balls to be funny.
I mean, it comes natural to a lot.
It does, but it's one of those things kind of like we were talking about being outside of the box or not even having a box. You know what I'm saying? It might come naturally to you, but then if that's the case, you're one of those people. You don't have a box kind of a person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's going to be areas of your life where you get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dude, I see guys sometime and I'm like, motherfucker.
Save that.
You asshole.
Look at that sexy man.
I do, man. And I'm like, damn it. But this is ManFUzed. And ManFUzed doesn't know necessarily what a woman wants. So ladies out there, educate us. Ben H and Kaylee want to know, what is it that makes a man sexy?
Well, yeah.
We know what makes a woman sexy.
And 770-744-5227. You can text, leave a message, or hit us up at manfused.com to let us know.
Please.
What
All the
about a
girls out
man?
there. Yeah.
Do you find sexy? What are those points?
Now, I'll tell you something about a man that I find sexy, and I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners who is our boy, our wonderful listener, Brian McDaniel. All the folks over at Atlanta Raptors, sorry. And you can find Brian McDaniel and Atlanta Raptors at F1_Raptor_ on Instagram. These guys are doing awesome stuff.
They're growing fast.
They're racing Raptors.
It's like a club. It's like
a club.
It's its own subculture.
Awesome, dude. It's so fucking cool. And so we've got their event calendar. And unfortunately, I mean, dude, they've got an event coming up tomorrow.
Oh.
And they've got other events coming up throughout the year. And we want to be a part of that. As a matter of fact, Brian has said he's interested in having ManFUzed as one of his racing sponsors.
That's right. We're going to sponsor him.
He heard the show where we were talking about our dream sponsors.
Right. He reached out. I talked to him for an hour almost.
And one of my dream sponsors, you know, I want to be in racing. Anything with wheels and racing. I'm into that. Brian reached out, and so we're going to have a ManFUzed logo on a Raptor that races.
Yeah, hell yeah. And he wants us to come out to certain events, maybe do even a live podcast we've talked about.
I think it would be cool. What if we offered to be a commentator on one of their races? I mean, I'm not even sure what their races look like.
Well, not yet, we don't.
But I think that would be fun.
His name is Chris Tuff. He is a best-selling author, and he's a highly sought-after keynote speaker. He worked with Facebook, one of the first advertisers to work with Facebook. He's presented for Meta, Nike, Home Depot, Verizon, and many other Fortune 100 companies, and he's going to be here in just a moment. Are you pumped up, Ben?
Dude, I'm super fired up. This guy is a business leader. He's a thought leader. He's an amazing person and really an example of what anybody can do if they just get out of their own way and do what it is that they know in their heart that they are capable of doing and that they can do.
Yep.
Kind of like the ManFUzed Podcast.
Damn straight.
Which is why he's coming on.
Right. He's written a book called The Millennial Whisperer and Save Your Asks. And he's going to blow our minds with a personality test, unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Hey, this is Chris. Leave a message and I'll get back to you.
Denied.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just talk about trains derailing.
Yeah. And
Since there's like another 20
absolutely
all over the nation.
Well,
there's chemical fires.
Yeah. Should I try again? Chris.
What's up?
How are you, sir?
I am good. I'm just pulling up your files quickly, getting ready.
Chris, this is Ben H, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
We're super
dude.
excited about this.
And Ben, man, how long have you been in real estate?
It's a long story, but basically it's a family business. So I was made to get my real estate license when I was 18, and I was in the military for 4 years. And other than that, it's really mostly all I've done, dude. I've done everything from commercial to development to residential to I've been in the business heavily for the last 10 years.
You're meant to be doing something much bigger.
So, Chris, before you say anything else, after our exchange back when you sent me those files and I told you I don't really want to look at them right now, but you said, what's Ben's last name? And I said, Heidenreich. And you go, He's miserable. And I said, oh shit. And you're like, in his work. And I go, oh, really? Are you being serious? I thought you were joking with me. And that's how I teased it to Ben. I was like, I told him just that much and nothing else. Because I didn't really have anything else.
Obviously, appreciate your time. You know, I've done a ton of research on you, and I've read a lot of the things that you've written, which are awesome. Beautiful, man. You write beautifully, and your expression is just so authentic and so genuine. I think in a big way, there's a big piece of me that seeks that level of expression as well. I see what you do, and it's just unbelievable, man. I know, again, your time is valuable. If you're open for an offline conversation about the results of that test and just any ideas that you have.
100%.
So do you want to analyze Ben first or me?
Here's the best part about personality tests is that there's so many available to us and no one's focused on it. And one of my kind of life dreams and passions is to bring more of these to more people earlier in their careers before they get stuck.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to a lot of people, I actually had a dental consultancy that I helped build. And I know it makes no sense, right? But dentists actually have the #1 suicide rate of any other profession.
I've heard that, man. And I'm like, no wonder. I mean, you're sitting there staring down the hole of somebody's mouth all day. It make you want to blow your fucking head off.
Here's what I discovered, though, with that, right? Because knowing that going in, it's that a lot of people, and this is true for ourselves and our friend groups, is that a lot of people are doing the wrong jobs for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my hypotheses is like, what if we just, even in like our last years of school, focused in on these things a little bit more so we can create more of a choose your own adventure. Some of us shouldn't go to college.
That's right.
College. Like skip that stuff.
Dude,
what
100%.
a waste of money.
I dropped out of high school.
With this personality profile, who wants to go first as I analyze you
I'll
guys?
go. I mean, it's fine.
Let's do Kay Lee first.
All right.
The man,
All right,
the myth,
Kay
the
Lee,
legend.
All right, Kaylee. So here's what's interesting is you're a daredevil as your profile, which means you're like running and gunning. If the house burns down along the way, on to the next, right? And what makes you a daredevil is that you know where it is that you're going. You've got a high autonomy. You're extroverted, meaning that you get your energy from other people. And I think a lot of people misinterpret introvert and extrovert. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by this interpretation of introvert and extrovert, and even listeners, as you're trying to dissect this, we all wake up with a certain amount of energy coins in the morning.
Absolutely.
And extroverts end up Pac-Manning the introverts' energy coins, right? Well, this is actually good for both of you because you're both
stealing
extroverts.
energy from them.
It's only going to fuel you, right? And same with me. I'm top 1% of extroverts. This is only going to fire me up even more. Whereas like my wife, who's a huge introvert, is like, stop stealing my energy coins. Please move away from this side of the house and go steal someone else's. Right.
Absolutely.
Sounds like your wife, Kaylee.
Yeah, it does. It sounds about like that.
Who's never even listened to one episode of the podcast.
Well, she hears me. She's like, I hear you enough.
She's like, I can't give you any more energy tokens.
Right. So Kaylee, I mean, it's not a surprise you are pretty extroverted, right? So you get that energy from others. Now, your pace, you're fast paced. You want things quick, right? You are not a detail, or you're also as low as they get for detail orientation, right? Like you're going to send me the Zoom link 2 minutes before we get going on this thing, right? Like, so one of the most important things for you, Kaylee, in order for you to run and gun, you need an administrative high detail assistant next to you. All right.
Yes, sir.
Like that is going to be one of your most imperative pieces, because what I do is I match up who you are and then where you are in your job. And I look at where those things are moving. And we can talk about some of those things, but just two more elements on this dissection is that people are either logic-based head or logic-based heart. Okay. And you two are opposites to one another because I know both of your profiles. And Kaylee, you are all head, right? And so let me guess, Kaylee, you've gotten feedback from people saying, man, like he's so cold, right? Like his his feedback is abrupt and he doesn't care about me.
Offensive, just purely offensive.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's funny because what I portray on the Burt Show to the audience and the stories I bring to the table, most of
He's the villain.
I've kind of am the villain because of the things I say, and they're like, I don't know how his wife is still married to him. Now, it's some of it's not that extreme, but yeah, you're right. Way. Yeah, it feels the same way. Yeah.
Well,
she's wondering the same thing.
Yeah, she asks herself.
My wife is also a logic of 9, and what's interesting is what you see facts, right? You actually make great hiring decisions, right? But you also make great firing decisions because you see things linearly, right? Whereas we've got Ben on the other side of that spectrum. And we'll dissect you in a second here, Ben. But
big puss.
You should never be allowed to hire anyone, right? You should never be allowed to hire anyone.
He shouldn't?
Because what you're going to do...
Shouldn't.
No, you. Yeah, you shouldn't, Ben. Because here's what happens. You fall in love with... Because you're actually a logic of 1. And you fall in love with every candidate.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, we got to hire this person. They're going to be awesome. We have the best connection.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you hire that person, and 6 months later, they're not working out. And your team's like, Ben, working out. And you're like, well, just give it a little bit more time. But you should not be in charge of any hiring decisions.
Ben's like, right? I love them.
It's funny you say that because literally, if there's one thing that has stunned my growth to epic levels, it's my inability to hire people and manage the people that I hire effectively.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, and there's a solution to that, which is don't be in charge of any people. You need someone underneath you to direct and do that stuff. And like I've done this same personality profiling with some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world.
That's
right?
Incredible, man.
And they have a very similar profile to you. And I have to tell them, I'm like, stop trying to have all these direct reports. Like, go do what you do best and set the strategy and where we're going. But like, just get someone underneath you that's really good at this. Like Kaylee, you actually make for a good manager because of your orientation to. Now, one thing that's also interesting about you, as you look at your routine orientation, you like to have routine, Kaylee. Like, even though you've got a low detail orientation, you like routine. So you are what they call kind of an ingenuity of 1, which means that when you're planning a trip, for example, my wife is a ingenuity of 9, where she'll literally walk up to a map before a vacation with a blindfold on and a dart and throw it and say, okay, we're going to Madagascar because that's where it landed. And I'm like, what? That makes no sense, right? You're like, and you're more by the book. Like you're like, no, we're going to go back to the place that we're most comfortable. We're going to go to that one place in 30A. We know exactly which house we're going to rent. You're more of that routine orientation. But the biggest name of the game in how you go about reading this is where the action lies, which is how you are as a human, which is established age 13 on, right? That top profile is never going to change. You can try to be more heart-based, Kaylee, or Ben, you could try to be more head-based, and it's not going to change.
Right.
So how do we actually adapt and create a life for ourselves where that is in line? And so it's looking at where you're making the biggest moves. So Kaylee, where you're making the biggest moves in the opposite direction is, and maybe I should talk to Bert about this, but you're not empowered enough at work. Your autonomy is going down almost, quite a bit, right? So you see that happen, which means you're having to be more team oriented than who you are as a human, which is you're more of a entrepreneur and a leader that says, this is where we're going, right? I know we're going to start the podcast. We're going to do the podcast. This is who we're going to interview. This is where we're going, right? Whereas within your work environment, you're like more team oriented and forced to kind of follow the flow.
Well, I'm a team player, and I really like the person is at the helm of it. So, but you're right on the whole podcast thing. I was like, Ben, let's do a podcast. Bert started a podcast company. He's got a few years where I have access to him, on a daily basis to where I can continue to learn and grow. This is where I see this going.
100%.
And I know about the rise and fall of our upward and downward spiral over the last year with the downloads. where we were at a high, we had just like, we can't believe this is happening. It's happening so much faster. And then the reality set in when we had no idea there was a difference between hosts and how podcast downloads are calculated. We're like, what in the hell? And then the depression. Okay, well, this is really where we are.
I'm like, let's just keep lying and stay with RSS.
But that's what most people do.
But that to me was like, that's not the audience we're trying to connect with.
That was ultimately the right decision, though. I mean, it really was. And so that's what I went with it. I was like, dude, whatever you want to do, let's just do it. You're leading this whole thing. This is your deal. I'm here as the co-host.
Our deal.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was
crazy.
Interesting.
It was crazy, but sorry to interrupt you. But yeah, well, with Bert...
No, you're good.
He doesn't like being a bitch at the Bert show.
No, I'm not a bitch. I have my tasks that help that thing run smoothly, and I am honored to do them, and I do them quickly and accurately.
But so, Kaylee, here's one of my creative suggestions, right? So what I would suggest, right? So I think it's important that all of us, and anyone listening, that we pursue things outside of work that drive us as humans, that actually fulfill our natural characters as well as our interests and passions, right?
Right.
But there are also creative ways to do that at work. And
Dude,
what I would say is, like, get something at the Bert Show that you can run with, whether it be a specific segment, whether it be a new execution or idea, to allow you to be this daredevil that you are. Because without that, you're going to continue to have this large disparity of feeling like you have to fall in line, and where you have to kind of drive down that pace and who you are, right? And I would say, generally speaking, Kaylee, like, your profile, one, it's a beautiful profile. You're an anomaly. You're an anomaly. And then two, there's not that much you need to change outside of this being able to actually dictate some of the direction of where you're going. Gotcha. I think this podcast helps you to a certain extent do that, right? But I would guess that you can probably come up with some other things within your day-to-day stuff at the Bert Show to run with things.
Right. Well, I mean, and
great information, dude.
So this podcast is actually, while I agree with you on the Bert Show side of things, but this thing is becoming even more than a podcast. It's kind of launching into these other areas, which we can talk about at another point. The tease that you had said to me was, "You're exhausted," and I said, "Well, yes, I kind of am exhausted."
He's a man with 3 children.
You're burned out.
But I'm so excited about where I'm going. Tired, but I'm fueled. I still have the energy to continue on.
So just for perspective, you're going through 40% more energy than what you have in a day. So when your head hits the pillow, if your fuel tank is at it's actually 40% in the other direction. And listen, you're also talking to a guy that's building like 6 companies and, us speaking and whatever. Mine is about twice, so it's like 100% over every single day. But I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, right. See,
that's me too. And my wife's always like, "You can't sit still. Like, you just can't. You've got to be doing something." I'm like, "There's so much to do." I mean, there's so much to fucking do.
Well, this has been something that you really have run with, though, like what Chris is talking about. I mean, you've taken this podcast, which was your idea. You came up with the name. I tweaked it a little bit, but ultimately this was something that you invited me to do and that you have absolutely ran with. I mean, we talked about that on the anniversary episode, but what Chris is saying is absolutely true, dude. You run the ball very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you guys are actually very similar profiles.
Okay.
Personality-wise.
Well, one thing that everybody who has heard this podcast says right off the bat, and I'm not sure if you've listened to any of it, but everyone's like, y'all's chemistry. Even Bert. As soon as Bert never even knew Ben, and I'm like, I'm starting a podcast with my buddy Ben H. We have been friends for 20 years. We did real estate together. And he was like, as soon as he heard it, he's like, "You guys have amazing chemistry." Maybe that's why we feed so good off of each other, even though he's a big pussy, as you just said earlier.
No, Ben's got more cleanup to do, right? So, Ben, when I analyze your profile, I would say that you're having what I call an out-of-body experience at work. And what that means is that we're all wired to be gifts to this world, right? I truly believe that. I'm not just saying that to be cheesy,
Right.
but so many of us, I mean, and you see it in dentistry, right? Where you end up doing the wrong job for the wrong reasons for the wrong people, right? And dentistry, you get stuck in, right? Because you end up going to school, you end up doing school, and there's really no other track outside of it. Having spent $500,000 on this stuff, you're like, now I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, actually, it doesn't matter what you're in. You can get creative and build new areas for you. So for a lot of those dentists, if they were wired like you, Ben, you're a rainmaker, and so am I. Right. The only difference between you two and your profiles is that, Kaylee, you're higher autonomy than you are extroverted. Whereas with Ben, he's more extroverted than he is autonomy. That's the only difference. You're both fast paced. You're both low detail. Although, Kaylee, you're faster paced than Ben. Anyways, but
Congratulations.
Where the name of the game here is that, Ben, you can sell anything. You can sell anything.
Yeah, you
right?
can.
When you and I don't even know each other, and I can tell that, right? You're once again one of these anomalies that was born to sell.
It's true,
now, what's interesting about rainmakers is that there's a few things that, and I can give you guys a lot more information on this, but you hate details, right? You hate the like nitty gritty stuff. You're going to tell a great story. You're going to tell it 3 different ways, but when it comes time to like get the facts, those people that want the facts are like, I don't know the facts. Like they're on the sheet, right?
True. Yeah.
But you can sell the crap out of anything. Now, what's interesting is that out of body experience at work is that the way you're higher autonomy, but then you're falling in line at work, right? You're super extroverted, but you're having to be more introverted. Your pace is about the same, and you could be fast paced or slow paced. You're not as extreme as Kaylee there, but you're having to drive your low detail all the way up.
Right.
And so and then you're also a logic of 1 versus a 9, which means you process everything through your heart. And now your problem, Ben, is like 1, you shouldn't be in charge of hiring anyone. 2, you need someone on your team that you can delegate all of those details for. So the listing agreements, the ins and outs, you need to delegate that. So you can just be in front of clients and running and gunning and selling.
Right.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And so one of the pieces of the kind of, as I look at this, is that if you can do that, coupled with freeing up more of your time, I do feel strongly that you could be super, not only satisfied, but even more productive in crushing stuff in real estate. Because, I know real estate because I've got a real estate consultancy, which replaced my dental consultancy with Beno. And so I see a lot of profiles there. And you and Beno are actually a very similar profile.
Yeah,
and what he's done so well is delegation.
He's done a great job of it, and we've always gotten along really well. I actually joined his brokerage really early on when he initially started it. And I came from a place where everything was handled for me, basically. And so I was destroying it. And then I thought I could step out. And when I did, all of that responsibility of the people that were working for me landed on me. And I was just getting covered up, man. And so I jumped really quickly back to the place where I had been before. Now, Beno was super kind and actually built me out an office space in the downstairs area of his building. I did probably 10 million in production in like the 4 or 5 months that I was there. So it wasn't as if there was some massive deficit, but he was super disappointed that I went back to my other place, especially after he had extended himself to me like that. And to be honest with you, it was very difficult to do. But, we've since had great conversations, man. I've spoken to him numerous times. I've gone directly to him and apologized to him and just told him that, it wasn't meant that way and that I admire him and I consider him to be, someone I look up to and a great friend and all those things. And so I think we're cool, man. We did the comedy show together. We had a great time doing that. I'm a super big admirer of what he's been able to do. And I do see a co-location or like, I see myself there. I see this like real recognized, real kind of a feeling with Beno. And I think he sees that in me as well. And so I recognize that really from the beginning, when I started there, dude, he had an entire team of people. I mean, he probably had 10 people working for him. at the beginning.
Delegation.
I don't even know what it looks like now, but at the beginning he was delegating to 10.
400.
Yeah. So, I mean, exactly. I mean, so absolutely.
But here's the other thing with you, Ben, and I want you to hear me on this, is that when you get down, all right, and you get down because you process everything through your heart, it is absolutely essential that you have either a friend like Kaylee or someone that you can look to and say, I'm feeling down, help pull me out of it.
Yeah.
You need someone else on your team to pull you out of that, or a coach or whatever that is. You need a support system around you, because your greatest asset is also your greatest weakness.
Yeah.
Because what you're able to do with buyers and sellers is that you can relate with them in an empathetic way where they leave that meeting, they're like, I love that dude.
Yeah.
Right? He gets me. I could feel like he knows what I want in the house.
Right.
But on that the flip side of that same coin is that when you get down, it's hard to pull you out.
Yeah.
So you have to have resources there to pull you out.
And I don't know, maybe I have a warped perception, but I feel that even if it's stuff that doesn't make it on air, because now we're about 55, we're about a year in, 55 episodes, so we have synced our schedule to make this a priority multiple times a week, every week. And I feel like we do kind of, like if I'm feeling even a little down, I feel like just through our banter and talk, whether it be on it, I think we do, it does bring both of us up, even if we're having a bad day. And I could be wrong, Ben.
The funny thing is that Chris is absolutely right. What he just said, I mean, and I've mentioned it a few times on the show. And honestly, I tell everyone that I love and everyone that loves me that, hey, I deal with a level of depression that I don't even understand. It can get so dark and so just ridiculous. And I do, man, I battle that. I mean, I didn't work. I did like, I don't know, 13 million between January and April last year. Right. And I was just like, fuck this shit. I'm out. You know what I mean? I got to take a break. And so I was like, all right, I'm referring all my deals and I'm just going to take a break for like a month. And a month turned into 2 months and 2 months turned into 3 months. And then September came around and it was like, holy shit, dude, I don't have anything going on. I referred a ton of business out. I got paid half on it. And I had this break, but then that turned into non-productivity in that space, in the real estate space, right? Which is really my primary source of income. So then I have to gear back up in the way that I know to do, which really doesn't serve me as well as if, like you're saying, there was a support system around that allowed me to ride through instead of just kind of going like this constantly, which is what I do, dude. It is what I do.
Well, you're also doing a lot of shit you hate.
That's right.
And it's all detail orientation. If you can just find one person that you can either, put them on an hourly rate to start doing that stuff out of the gates and then transition them to full time, because you're going to start crushing that.
Yeah.
Even in this market.
Yeah.
Right. You were born to sell houses, but you don't have the right person to delegate that to actually end up and if you can do that, everything switches in the other way. Right. That's my one suggestion. Once again, I've never met you. I'm just looking at the data.
No, that's amazing information, Chris. I mean, it really is. And it hits a really deep place in me to hear you say those things. I mean, like seriously. And so, I appreciate it. I'm grateful for that experience. It's something that I'm really going to have to think about as well. You know what I mean? Like, you've given me a lot to think about. And also immediately I'm identifying people who have come into my life over the last couple weeks that want to work with me. They're like, look, we just want to be a part of whatever the fuck it is you're talking about. We want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Because you're a rainmaker, Ben. You're born. You can sell anyone on the vision.
It's true.
Right? Like, people want to be with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to be with you, Ben. I love you. Yeah. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel, Ben?
But so thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's incredible stuff.
That's awesome. I love this.
I'll also say I have zero license in this. I've never done any training. I just learned it from my dental consultancy, which I also had no.
I don't trust all that shit, dude. I'm a non-trusting guy, bro. I've been to war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've been to combat for like a year and a half. I don't trust shit.
find this fascinating, and I've taken personality tests before, but nothing. There were two questions. There was choose your own adventure, whatever that you felt applied to you, and you get all this information out of those two questions.
But it's an interesting thing what we're talking about, the license thing, and it relates to what we're talking about as well, because to me, when you say I don't have a license on this, that takes it up a notch. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like down a notch, because to me, like a license equals a test. A license equals a book. A license equals
curriculum that you have to follow. An
agreed upon narrative, which we're not going to operate outside of, because that's when we got our license. We go outside of that shit, then we're going to get in trouble or something.
I think so many people want to just play everything the way they're, and once again, it depends on our personality, but I'm a huge proponent of just stealing bases, right? Like my wife is the exact opposite of me. She's like, oh, I got to go. I want to be a trainer. I want to do this. I need to go get my license. I'm like, Julie, you were the top 10 best female soccer players in the world, you and your sister, when you were playing professionally. So just steal those bases, right? I mean, I had no authority on anything in the culture world except for running a team of 400 young employees. And then I wrote the book on it. It sold 100,000 copies. Now I've become that authority, right? But we don't have enough action in our life. So many people like to say, let's do this, let's do that. But then what are we doing to actually move towards it? And I'm not talking about happiness, right? I'm talking about where joy lives, which is progress, especially as men. And
Absolutely,
so how do we create more progress in our lives that's in line? Stop trying to fake it to everyone around you.
Right.
And take action on being the person that you were born to be, right? Or not even born to be, but really age 13 on.
That's incredible stuff, man. That's amazing. Chris, what does your daily regimen look like, man? I mean, for someone like yourself, what does a day look like for you? Just high level,
So here's what's interesting about that is that I've had some people so there's this guy named Ryan O'Leary who I did a speech around culture and connection to your people, the Millennial Whisperer, essentially. And he reached out to me on Instagram afterwards, and he was like, Chris, that was amazing. Thanks for providing value. I'd love to talk to you further. I was like, well, what do you do? And he said, I'm a salesperson for this insurance company. And I was like, dude, you got to read my new book, Save Your Ass, which is all right in line. I haven't shown it to anyone, but I'll give you the rough draft. I sent him the rough draft. He goes, Chris, I'm coming to Atlanta next Wednesday if you're available. I want to just shadow you for a day. I was like, yeah, come along. And so he comes along, and I said, there's been a little change of plans. We'll meet at my house, but we're actually going to go wake foiling with my buddy John Brinkus for the rest of the afternoon. We're just going to connect up there. He was like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. And then we'll probably have some other meetings along the way and take it from there. And what was awesome about that is that I kind of make it up as I go. I mean, in a lot of ways, obviously I've got kind of my set day to day, but what Ryan walked away with was like, Chris, you really just meet with people and you're bebopping in and out of these different companies and things. And there's no set regimen. I was like, no, because I thrive on connection. I just want to meet with people all day, every day.
Right.
Because that's where I get my energy.
Right.
So my day-to-days every single day are totally different outside of, I'm flying different places for speeches, about once every 10 days. And I'm talking on culture. I'm talking about how to better sell with Save Your Asks. But outside of that, it's building these different companies, including, the company I'm building with Bert, and just meeting with people and trying to act as their catalyst in the same way that I'm trying to be for you all. Because so my greatest gift is, and this is my purpose, is to unlock passions and dreams and be a catalyst.
That's awesome.
And that's what
so
Bert,
cool.
3.5 years ago, right? We were sitting at a bar for our men's meeting, and he turned to me and he was like, man, the stuff you're doing in the dentistry space and all these books and these different things, I want a little bit of that. I was like, Bert, look at your currency. You're the most listenable human being in the world. One of them. I'd say top 10 most listenable people. Meanwhile, everyone and their dog is creating a podcast. Become that authority. And he was like, well, I don't know how to do that. I was like, well, I do. You write a book on it. And he was like, I don't know how to write a book. I was like, well, come along with me. And what's cool is Listenable will be published in March, right? But during that journey, he's applied a lot of these learnings to the radio world. And, then as he's been going, he's like, holy crap, Chris, like this is unbelievable, this digital and podcasting. And that's really where we kind of pivoted along the way. And he brought me in as a partner where we're now building Pioneer and having a lot of ups and downs and all arounds, but there's no one else I would rather do it with, right? It's when you go to battle. And I told Bert this the other day. I was like, Bert, you are such an anomaly in that you're like a gobstopper that each layer that I get deeper, it's actually better tasting than most people. Most people, it's the opposite. With each layer, once you break that surface level, you're like, wait, this, and then you get to the core, you're like, this person kind of sucks.
Right.
And I was like, Bert, I'm at the core of that gobstopper, and you rock, dude.
You taste delicious. I was like,
right, it is. And I look at my inner circle, which is comprised of 5 people, and I put Bert in that. Who are the people when I'm feeling down that I'm calling?
Yeah.
All those people are these kind of gobstopper experiences that as you get deeper. And I mean, I say that long story of like just what I did for Bert, I did for my identical twin brother, right? Where he was a teacher for 20 years. He got sober 10 years ago. And he does this epic swim 26 miles in the sharkiest great white waters.
Dude, that's
where
insane.
He has not only he has a thing that dangles off of his leg when he swam from Block Island to Newport, Rhode Island, and it actually dispels the sharks around him.
That is
and
wild.
There's a group on the boat saying there is a great white 30 feet under you.
Oh my God.
Sakes, dude.
And that's what I was like, Ben, why is this not a documentary?
Should
right?
be.
Why is this not a documentary?
Oh my God.
And I get goosebumps. He's the first person to do it. He's like, well, I don't know how to do a good documentary. He was like, well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
so I was doing a speech, literally, like the next week I was doing a speech up in Asheville, and I saw a guy with like a steady cam and this stuff. And I was like, what's your name? He's like, Matt. And I was about to go on stage, and I was like, Matt, what do you do? He's like, I make documentaries. I was like, what kind of documentaries? He goes, Social Dilemma, Chasing Corals. I was like, holy crap, I've seen all of those. I got this idea for my twin brother. Tell me what you think of it. And it's this epic swim of how he found sobriety through these crazy swims, right?
That's
awesome. And he's a teacher.
That's killer.
And he was like, cool. Let's do it. I was like, I'll fund it, right? So what's cool is we just wrapped up filming 2 weeks ago. We're scoring it now with, coincidentally, Lawrence Katz from the Mighty Mighty Bosstones is going to score it with another guy, Billy, who's like one of the biggest producers in Hollywood. And like, I'm like, how did this all happen, right? And my brother just quit his job, and now he's building a company around the documentary and helping people both find sobriety, but also find inspiration around doing something super epic. And I look at all this stuff, guys, right? And that's where, like, that's at the core of my being, is that is what gives me the most energy, just like we did earlier, when I can act as a catalyst for others.
Right.
And not just like the celebrity rooms, but more so with the people that need it the most. And that's what I'm on a mission to do.
Your brother is Alexander Tuff, right? Sorry to
That's
interrupt.
another. This is my identical twin brother, Ben Tuff.
BenTuff.com. He's one tough motherfucker, bro.
Yeah, Swim Tuff is the URL. You can see the.
What a cool name.
From the first time that you came into the Bert Show studio and you were kind of doing something for Bert, I don't think I had met you yet, but immediately I saw you have tattoos all down your arm. Would you get those tattoos here in Atlanta?
Dude,
So
I
cool.
got my second one live on air with Bert. This one. I called Bert. I said, Bert, I'm about to publish the Millennial Whisperer, and I want you to put me on air because I need a publicity stunt. And Bert was like, Chris, my listeners don't care about you being the Millennial Whisperer. I go, okay, yeah, there's a catch, dude. I go, statistically speaking, the greatest difference between millennials and boomers out of anything is actually their appetite and acceptance of tattoos.
Wow.
What if you try to interview me about the book while I try to carry it out in pain while I get tattooed by my guy Keoki, who's now turned into one of my close friends, and he's going to freehand the whole thing. He's like, now we're talking. And so my first time actually going in studio, Kaylee, was to get my Millennial Whisperer tattoo.
Awesome.
So
which
sick,
is
dude.
this piece, while Bert interviewed me for it. I mean, once again, it was a 20-minute segment, so we only got a little bit of it done. But, my story, and I'm a huge proponent and advocate of tattoos.
Me
And
too.
my connection with Keoki, right, is that when I have one of those life-defining moments, I call him and I'm like, dude, please jam me in.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to put that stake in the ground on my body to act as that thing that I can always refer back to.
Beautiful work.
It is. And I just thought that was so cool. My story, and I don't know if I've told it on this show and a little bit on the Burt Show, you only get a couple minutes snips to get your stuff out on the Burt Show. So when I dropped out of high school, my mom was about to kick me out of the house. She's like, you're not going to school. You're not working. You got to go. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I was like, you know what I'm going to fucking do? I want to be a body piercer. That's what I want to do. At the time, I'm going through the phone book, right? And I'm like looking up these tattoo shops and I start calling. Hey, I want to be a body piercer. Hello? Hanging up on me. They don't want outsiders coming into their shit. And then I go into Psycho Tattoo in Marietta. I don't know if you're familiar. You've lived in Atlanta enough, right? Dino Cook owns that shop. I don't know if you know who Dino Cook is. Dino Cook is in my opinion, one of the best artists, hands down, of his generation. He's older than me, but skilled in every way. Photography, painting, tattooing. I mean, his portrait work is beyond. Well, I go in and I'm like, I smoke a blunt with the piercer. And I'm like, after he pierced my nipple. And I'm like, dude, I want to be a body piercer. And he's like, well, I have some pull with the owner. I didn't know who Dino Cook was at the time. I get my foot in the door. For 8 years, I'm helping this trend move along. At that time, a tongue piercing was shocking.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, you got your tongue pierced. Nonetheless, a genital piercing, like we didn't walk around showing anybody, but it became over the years, and we were the biggest shop out there. Well, I ended up buying half of the second store. So for 11 years, I owned part of Psycho Tattoo 2 in Sandy Springs before the city took it. And just watching that acceptance of how everything is like, okay, well, it's not shocking anymore. Now it's accepted. You can go to an executive and you're not shocked when you see tattoos coming out of their suit sleeve anymore. My chiropractor, who I haven't been to in years, is sleeved out. It's just accepted. And I just found your work very cool. And I think it just helps your brand even more.
Yeah. It was funny. So actually the documentary maker, Matt Corliss, who I had out here, we were sitting and I was like, dude, you want to go for a run? He was like, what are you talking about? Like, we only have like an hour. I was like, yeah, but I need to, like, let's just go for a run. What size shoe are you? He's like, a 12. I'm like, all right, you want to go run along the Chattahoochee? He's like, I guess. So I gave him my clothes and we go for this run. He's like, Chris, because I'm like, we got cameras all around us. I'm like, the only way we're going to be able to connect is to do something together, right?
Yeah.
And so we're on this run and I start talking about my story and what starts with my rock bottom, which was 2016. And I'm referencing my first tattoo and how I met my tattoo artist, where I went to 5 tattoo artists. I said, listen, as I came out of my rock bottom, one of the main things that changed was doubling down on my 2 daughters and my wife. And it was actually my twin brother said, you got to stay in your own hula hoop. And I was like, I'm going to go get that tattoo, right? That I want 3 hula hoops, 1 for each of those people. And so I go and see this guy, Kiyoki, and because everyone said that we can't do a linear line around a cylindrical, whatever. There's one guy that can do it. He's this Hawaiian dude. And I'm like, all right. So Kiyoki and I hit it off, right?
Yeah.
And he ends up making this, not only is it one, Marlin, the ocean, Finley, my wife, but this is me being identical twin, married to an identical twin boy,
Wow.
and then the hand of God that brings us together. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. This is the coolest thing. So I'm telling this guy, Matt Corliss, all about it. He was like, Chris, when I first saw you, I thought you were just this douchebag with this Polynesian tattoos. I was like, dude, let me keep going. I'm going to take you through each one of these. And it culminates, right, to me saying, so one of the things that I do is I take 20% of my time and I take people along that need it, right? So I take 20% of all my time and I just, with no prerogative or agenda, I just want to help them.
Yeah.
And Kiyoki really has become one of those.
That's amazing.
And so I helped him open his shop up in Duluth, and he calls me after I helped him get his health inspection thing done. And I was like, dude, I got to be your first tattoo. He was like, well, you got 20 minutes. Because I was like, I want to be that $1 bill on the side of your tattoo thing. So I got to be the first one, right? He goes, okay, you got 20 minutes. And so I go in there, and with that 20 minutes, he was like, well, what are you going to do in 20 minutes? I was like, I want everywhere I go tattooed on the inside of my arm. And he goes, well, what's that mean? And I said, I told the story about how every night my daughter and I, ever since she was 6, when we're reading together, because she's super dyslexic, and sometimes we're just hanging out, sometimes we're not doing anything, but we're together, right? It's that time together that's so
it's
important
that quality.
as parents. And at the end of it, I started saying, do you feel my love? Her immediate response was, everywhere I go. And so I was like, I need to get that tattooed, right? And so I go into Keoki's, he gets it done. And I'm telling Matt this on our run, and he starts crying. And one of my tactics that I love to tell audiences and anyone listening is sending video text messages after you meet someone, right? Yeah. So let's just say you meet someone. When you send them a video text message, it deepens the relationship 20 times faster, and it's a lot better than any sort of text or something else, right? So I send Matt, cool. I was like, dude, after he went back to Boulder, I was like, that was an epic run, blah, blah, blah. And he awkwardly texted me. He's like, I've never done one of these video text messages before, but Chris, I got to tell you something. I want to be put in touch with your tattoo guy. Never did I want a tattoo before you told me that story about you and your daughter. Can you set up an appointment next time I'm in Atlanta? I was like, Matt, you're my guy. I'll set it up, baby. Right?
Incredible, dude. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, dude, I need to get with Keoki.
So this, I didn't have a daughter.
There was a DJ called Keoki back in the day.
I didn't have a daughter at the time, and I hope that this was my rock bottom. You never know what life has in store, right? But I was going through some rough times. I had broken up with somebody that I was with for years. I was probably doing more drugs than I should have been doing, and I remember going with a really positive group of people who were very, very successful, who I grew up with. Believe it or not, their parents were Amway millionaires.
Yeah.
Okay. But this was crazy though, man, because I was introduced to people that were successful in Amway when I was like 12 years old. I knew nothing about what it was or what they did. And as I started growing up, all these people ever did was give me just Napoleon Hill books, just training after training after training. And people were like, oh, well, they're diamonds in Amway. And I'm like, well, dude, they're living a life that most people don't fucking have because they got this residual money. Well, regardless. And so I went with them to Costa Rica. And I remember sitting on the beach. And at that time I was looking, I wanted to come down with my sleeve. And I was sitting on the beach and I picked up just a thing of shells. And I don't know if you've ever looked at the organic biomechanical shapes that are on shells. It almost looks like something out of H.R. Geiger. Alien looking, like that's what I want. It's life. I don't know if you can see. So this is like a zoomed in version of shells that, like, if you just took like a lens and just zoomed in.
You can, like, the further you look into it, the further it goes.
Camera probably is not doing it justice, but and to me that was like my buddy Craig Foster, who was on Ink Master multiple seasons, has got one of the most unique styles I've ever seen. He's just,
I know Craig.
You know Craig Foster? He's the godfather of my son. I worked with Craig at Psycho Tattoo for 10 damn years. And I mean, we have our bond. Like, we get together. My wife's like, you guys are like, you're 12 years old. How do you know Craig?
Yep. Just through Keoki.
Oh, okay.
I know a lot of the tattoo guys. I've now become like the guy to go to when people want tattoos. I'm like, oh, Keoki.
It's cool that you know Craig. He's a cool cat. Probably met Keoki too, I would imagine. I've been out of that game for so long and, started pursuing other things like radio and
podcasts
and learning from Bert and things of that nature. It's this ride has been awesome, and we are just, I don't know if you are as excited as I am. Chris, we're trying to move this ManFUzed brand. I think there's so many areas that we're about to branch off in, and I'm just super excited about it.
Do you want me to tell you how to do it?
I mean, of course.
So here's one of the things that I've learned, right, is that, and I've got a lot of friends that are authors and podcasters and speakers and stuff, and so many people do it in the wrong direction, right, where they end up writing the book or having the podcast, and then they try to monetize it immediately. And money and impact go hand in hand.
Of course.
And so as I've gone through this journey and invested a lot of money in the right places, but more so in the wrong places, one of the epiphanies I had was like, I've got it in the wrong order, right? And so now that I know what the order is, which is you create, I mean, I'm doing it with Beno right now with Brokering Billions, right? Where you create the momentum into that thing. For you all, it's ManFUzed. And then you start focusing in on retreats and events, which then goes into a year-long or 6-month-long kind of program that follows some sort of curriculum. And then off of that, you create the flywheel, which then creates all of these other pieces like the speaking, like the sponsorships, everything else. That's what's become my specialty.
That's sick.
And so I've created a company as of the last week called the Impact Factory. And it's creating a movement to help people create movements. And I have a call right after this with a guy to help him with his stuff, who he changed my life. Is this guy named, everyone has to check out this dude. His name's Grant Corgan, and he has a documentary called The Push. Grant was paralyzed in a snowmobile accident. And in his moment of despair, as he was getting some of his agility back, but obviously not that much because he broke his back basically in half. He turned to his wife, Shauna, and said, I'm going to push myself across all of the South Pole in an expedition, 100 miles. And his wife, Shauna, was like, okay, that sounds audacious. Let's figure out a way to get there. So he trained for 2 years, and he produced a documentary called The Push. And it recounts him pushing himself across Antarctica, but it doesn't stop there. Everyone watched the documentary. So now, and this is how I got linked up with Kelly Slater and the guys at Surf Ranch. It was for a fundraiser for Grant. And Grant and I hit it off, and I'm now the momentum lead for the Moment Foundation, which is the foundation he created. He's the only paraplegic in the world with his pilot's license. And what he does is he takes Army veterans and first responders, and he takes them up. I get goosebumps talking about it. He takes them up in a plane and hands them the throttle with a curated playlist. Oh my God. And he can see, watching these veterans that have had everything taken away from them, their hairs and their goosebumps hit. Man. And it's a moment that puts them in control for the first time in their life. And so I'm helping him build and scale that. And so actually right after this, I'm like, great, you've done all the hard stuff. You've got a successful documentary. You've got all these books. But one of the things that I want you to look at differently is the order in which you do these. So he and I are running a big fundraiser up in New York City. And I was like, let's just start there. We're going to do it in March. And it's with a bunch of really well-known people. I'll do a retreat right afterwards that we can then start this flywheel for you. Oh my God. And so
that's unbelievable.
Once again, so that's essentially what I'm trying to do with everyone around us and what I'm trying to do with you all today here.
Right? Well, as a veteran, if there's any space for someone to fill in there to raise money, or I don't know what it looks like, but I would be highly interested. I'm an Army combat veteran. I was in Iraq for about a year and a half. I was in Abu Ghraib as an interrogator for over 7 months. I mean, and I was so lucky not to lose my life. But many of my friends are disabled, and many of my friends died. Many are mentally in very difficult places as well. So I have incredible connections throughout the military community, as I'm sure your friend does as well. Seriously, I'd love to be a part of something like that.
We're raising $250,000 right now to buy him a plane, which I think we just did last night when I was on a call. And you asked me, like, what's my day like? I'm like, I have no idea. People are like, you're so all over the place, but not all over the place. But one of the places that I'm really focusing in on right now is to help Grant with the Moment Foundation and getting this airplane acquired so he can stop renting it.
I wish right now we were further in our journey, because that would be one of my goals, to be able to stroke a check for $250,000 and be like, boom.
I'm thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we could raise money through like all the VFWs? You know, you go after volumes of people putting up small amounts of money, you buy a whole fucking fleet of airplanes, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and then that's going to be the name of the game is then scaling them out. One of the things that is special about it right now is Grant's the one that's taking them out, but we also have a strategic relationship with the Thunderbirds. So if someone's dream is to go up in a Thunderbird, we get them up in a Thunderbird, right? Like, so Mace Curran is on the board with me, who's the only female pilot that flies upside down. I met her at the Surf Ranch thing. I mean, and it's just like, what is happening? This is the craziest stuff.
Well, that is on my bucket list item to fly in a jet. Before the Russian and Ukraine war, one of the only places you could pay Russia to take you up and fly one of their little
There are ways. So there are ways. And that's my favorite game to play with people is like uncovering, like, what's your ultimate dream, right? And I did a blog post on this. The most important question you can ask anyone sitting across from you, whether it's someone you're trying to get as a client, whether it be your kid, whether it be even your spouse, is what is your dream, right? What is that one thing? And what I'm on a mission to do is unlock as many of those as possible and then but help people go after that. And Kaylee, I'll end it with one last kind of story that'll get you guys fired up. But if that's your dream, like we'll figure out a way to make it happen. So I was in the Turks and Caicos right after I published Savior Asks. And I instead of doing what most authors do, which is like a huge ego play and book signing, I went to my happy place, which is the Turks and Caicos. I'm a huge kiteboarder. That's my happy spot. I kiteboard my face off, reconnect with my family without devices. And we were on our fourth night there, and I finally like totally chilled out from the book published and, you know, everything else. And we went to this Italian restaurant, and it was an Italian restaurant where there were like 12 waiters, and we were the only table there. And I turned to my wife, Julie, I'm like, this is going to be one of those awkward nights when those, like, you know, there's like 12 waiters. We're the only ones here. It's probably going to be like a 2-hour meal, right? And she was like, I know, right? And then out of the blue, this young gentleman with the biggest beaming smile came by our table. And I looked at his name tag and it said John Lee, Johnley. And he was like, he just had this energy and spirit about amongst him. Like, and he was hanging out, he was talking to the girls, and it was instant connection. And he calls me Mr. Chris. He's like, Mr. Chris, you have the most beautiful family. And I then we start just jiving, right? We're like in our second, third course, and we're just jiving. And I finally uncover the fact he's one of 11 kids. He has 3 jobs in Turks. He's been there for 5 years, and he's busting his butt to try to make ends meet. And I'm like, John Lee. Finally, he comes back. It's right before dessert. I said, I'm going to ask you the most important question anyone's asked you. He goes, yes, Mr. Chris. I go, John Lee, what is your dream? What is that ultimate thing that you are working so hard to get towards? And he goes, Mr. Chris. And he got teary-eyed. He goes, Mr. Chris, I have 2 dreams. And my first dream is to go back to Haiti, to save up, get a plane ticket, go back to Haiti, see my mom. But Mr. Chris, my second dream is to go to the U.S., where it is a world of freedom, and I want to taste Chick-fil-A. And I was like, John Lee, there it is, dude. And he goes, and ultimately, I want to work in hospitality. I go, dude, there it is. You just put a stake in the ground, baby. And my wife is like, Chris, just settle down. Right?
Calm down.
And he leaves, and I go, Julie, I'm going to Aladdin this thing. I'm going to make that first wish come true. Are you down with it? She's like, totally. So he comes back. And I go, John Lee, here's the good news. You could just focus on that second trip because I'm going to take care of the first one right now. So we buy his ticket to go back to Haiti. It was $450 or something. He starts crying. He's all emotional. And I said, John Lee, I'm not leaving you, right? I'm going to see you all the way through in this journey. And it's about 9 months later, guys, right? So it was a couple months ago, and I'm on a WhatsApp video call, and Julie's like, who are you talking to? It's 10:15. I'm like, it's John Lee. She's like, you're still talking to him? I was like, we talk every single week. And not only, and here's where it gets awesome. So I wrote a blog post about it, posted on LinkedIn. I had 5 friends reach out to me, said, I'll help John Lee out, get him to America. And I had someone from corporate at Chick-fil-A saying, we'll give John Lee, we'll give him a tour of Chick-fil-A, we'll feed him Chick-fil-A, right?
Oh my God.
And so it was last week that I was on that another WhatsApp call, and he's coming. He's staying with me the last week of April. And while he's here, I've got him set up with a lawyer to help get his documents. I've got interviews set up with him. And I told him all this, and he's crying. I'm crying. He goes, Mr. Chris, God gives lessons in life, and he gives blessings. And Mr. Chris, you are a blessing. What's the difference between a blessing and a lesson? And he goes, well, blessings stay with you. Lessons come and then they leave.
Wow.
And you stayed through this whole thing.
Bam.
Wow.
And that, I mean, I get teary-eyed. Like, that's what I'm trying to do more of, right? And I think it's easy to misinterpret who I am and what I represent and what my message is. But ultimately, that is where my mission lies, is to do more for more, in that line of uncovering people's dreams and then doing something within my ability to then let them take action on it.
That is absolutely amazing. Yeah. I just feel like everybody we touch on a daily basis, I've always felt this way. I mean, you can leave them one of two ways, better than they were, or you could be the jerk that, just pisses them off and adds to their crappy day if that's what they're having. And it just, him meeting you that day is an absolute blessing. But you turned it into that blessing. You had that option to just make a couple of, casual, remarks and then go about your day and ignore him and do your thing. You have the ability to, and the want to, keep it coming. I just think it's amazing, Chris. I'm pumped up. I want to run through the wall right now.
It all comes down to connection, right? Like, it's all about real, authentic connection.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying I'm any hero for people, right? Like, I was given more than most, right? With how I was raised and my access and all that stuff. And it is my duty to uncover that in people and bring them along. And we live in a world, we all see it, right? It's this TikTok, instant gratification, Instagram, like people giving some homeless guy $1,000. I'm like, what about that guy in a week and a half? Like, what's going to happen to him? And it's just like this egocentric, quick fix bullshit.
Right.
So true.
Yeah, you gave the guy $1,000. You didn't teach him how to fish. You just gave him a fish.
Exactly,
you threw a fish at him, Thank you so much for your time, for your information, for just everything. I'm pumped up. I'm even more inspired. I'm ready to go. I'm not sleeping for 2 weeks.
Dude. I really appreciate you being a part of the show and coming on. And like, I was reading through your stuff last night and one thing stuck with me. And it was this poem that your brother Alexander sent to you when you were kind of redefining your life, and I wanted to ask if I could read it.
Sure.
Was it Nelson Mandela wrote this, right?
Yeah.
And it just struck me, dude. It says, "I'm tired of sailing my little boat far inside the harbor bar. I want to be out where the big ships float, out on the deep where the great ones are. And should my frail craft prove too slight for storms that sweep those wide seas over, better go down in the stirring fight than drowse to death by the sheltered shore."
Yeah, that's badass.
Dude,
and the craziest thing about that was I sent him the blog post of like saying, my greatest metaphor for me leaving the security of my ad agency that I helped build that paid all of my life, right? The only metaphor I came was like, it was this vision of me like fishing, right, in the harbor. And it's like, I can't catch any fish unless I actually leave the harbor and the safety of it. And so I wrote that blog post on it. He was like, dude, Chris, you got to read this speech by Nelson Mandela. Oh my gosh. And that's amazing, how then I was like, I got to include that in the blog post. So guys, thank you so much for the opportunity. Obviously, if anyone wants to connect with me, do it on Instagram, Tuff22, or go to my website, christuff.me. And you guys, thank you for the opportunity to impact your listeners' lives in a positive way.
And hopefully we'll keep in touch and we'll talk soon. Take care, man. Good luck today.
Yeah. I love it, guys.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, brother. Wow. What a great conversation.
Wow. That was epic.
I feel like I just went through a metamorphosis. I feel like something just happened in my life. I feel like that guy just dropped on me the exact answer that I have been praying for. I mean, that was life-changing. I mean, genuinely. What he told me, I get it now. All of a sudden, I understand something that I did not understand before.
Which is what? Exactly.
Literally, that I need to remove myself from every administrative relative task that there is in life. I need to be 100% out of anything detail-oriented, and I need to be 100% in relationships.
And that would be like paying the power bill.
For example, that's a great example. You know what I'm saying? But it goes so much deeper than that because, as you know, how many freaking companies are we talking about right now? We've got like 3
that we're trying to build.
Right.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Right.
And I am in the muck of the underside of things. I'm trying to do it all. And it's spiraling out of control, not to the extent that I'm unsuccessful, but to the extent that there's an exponential amount of progress that can be made if I properly structured. I just thought I was doing the best I could.
Well, you were. We all can do better. I knew that would be a great meeting. It was eye-opening across the board, but I was so fired up. And Ben H., it has really, in 3 days, impacted his life drastically.
I want to be completely open and vulnerable to our audience, because that's what this is about. This is about transparency. This is about authenticity. This is about life, bro. We're all in this together.
And I think that's one of the things that we don't curb our opinions. We
Right.
tell you the way we see it. We feel the way we feel, and that's it.
But this interview was I think it was very revealing for me. And, it was among the best conversations I've ever had in my life. It was something that when he said what he said to me, I didn't know what he was going to say. And we did yours first, and that was incredible. And then he focused his attention on me. And when he said what he said, it hit me at a place that was like so deep. I mean, it hit me at a place that it stirred something within me. When he said what he said to me, it stirred something within me that I did not have the ability to reach. I didn't know. I've known something's wrong for a long time, but I didn't quite understand what to do about it. I just hammer on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I just soldier on. You know what I mean? I just bash on.
No one has ever offered you that perspective.
Yeah,
While
dude.
you might have considered that perspective, but no one has ever pinpointed, this is what you need.
Here's what you got to do. Here's what you're having an issue with. Here's what you need to do. And in the past 3 days, I cannot tell you the level of peace that has come around the things he said, that conversation for me in my life. The way that I see my future now is completely different. The way that I see what I need to do on a daily basis is completely different. And not only that, the floodgates have opened in the way which he described they could if I did what he said I should do, which is to surround myself with people who can handle aspects of my life that I'm just not suited to handle.
Right.
Which is pretty much everything other than what we're doing right now.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly.
Because that's what I do.
Right.
This is what I do.
Right.
I do this. We leave here. I go out and do this for people in different ways.
Right. Of course.
And it was a complete paradigm shift for me.
Well, for me, and I think as you will hear, and from what I haven't listened to it either in its entirety, it's being edited by our staff now.
Beautiful.
And I will probably get wind of it on Monday.
Yeah.
And go through it all and, just prove it that
Yep.
it is to the quality level that I need it to be.
That's right.
As far as editing and, just cleaning up little teeny things.
Well, ManFUzed Productions is in full gear on our own podcast. We have identified, we have hired, we are building out this company around our podcast as it stands.
The website, I've been dealing with that. That's still being updated to reflect ManFUzed Productions. And if you go to our website, it's a little bit ugly and in shambles at the moment, but it will be a polished piece of artwork here soon. I am not a detail-oriented person myself.
Yes. Right.
Now, one of the things that I thought was awesome that he said, you two are very similar.
Yes.
Remembering the conversation, and it was such a great conversation and so many great things were said. I'm only probably remembering a couple of things, and then I'll go back and be like, oh yeah, that was amazing, and that I need to, think about that too. But he said, the main difference between you and you are more to lead with your heart.
Right. All the way.
All the way
heart.
As I am leading with my brain.
Right. You're the head.
I'm the head, you are the heart.
That's right.
Where sometimes the vulnerability and softness that comes with leading with your heart towards other people or towards a task. No, that's not logical to me.
Right.
I'm cut and dry. Fuck their feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't care about people. It's more logic based.
If it logically makes sense, then that's the right thing.
And if you think about that though, I think that makes a dynamic
I agree.
partnership.
For sure.
Because you're going to offer perspective sometimes that is more heart-led.
Yes.
Which sometimes I need that.
Yeah. Yeah, and vice versa.
And where I might be like, Ben, as I said in the podcast, pussy.
Yeah.
I might be like, stop being a pussy.
Yeah.
We need to do it this way because this is the logic. And then we meet in the middle.
Well, again, part of the realization for me is just to acknowledge that that's true. To acknowledge to myself, I lead with my heart.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
But kind of like you said.
I wish I had a heart.
But you think about, I'm a soldier, dude. I mean, I've been to war. Like, I've seen some of the most horrible things you can imagine. So for someone that leads with their heart, it even makes that much more of an impact when people fuck you over, or when someone lies to you, or when you get something wrong, or when someone's disappointed in you. And I think you carry those things. Like, I'm someone who holds grudges, dude. If you fuck me over, I will never forget it. I'll forgive. I'm all good. I know people are fucked up.
Right.
But bro, I will never, ever forget the way someone made me feel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's different. My dad wrote a book. I mean, I don't even know where it can be found, but I think it was more of a therapeutic thing or something like that. And he wrote a book, and in the book, he describes his two sons. Now, if you don't know, I have a brother 2 years younger, lives in Australia.
Right.
He was just in town, spent a month at my house. My dad references his two sons.
Yeah.
And he says, and this is exactly what Chris Tuff kind of said. It kind of encompasses me. He said, my younger son would give the shirt off of his back for somebody else.
Right.
Where my older son would take it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Sure, I'll take that.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to cold and die tonight? Give me that jacket.
Exactly.
I mean, not to that extent, and I'm exaggerating it, but I guess that's just the way I am. I mean, it's not that I don't care about anybody else, but it's just kind of a logic thing, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that applies. But when Chris said that to me, I'm like, yeah, that definitely hits the nail on the head.
Well, I would just encourage everybody to check out Chris Tuff. ChrisTuff. He's on every social media platform. He's on every freaking thing. He's written books. Check out his LinkedIn. He writes incredible things.
And he says incredible things. And I'm going to have a whole spread on him with links to the books, with links to his website on our episode description.
Yeah.
And he probably will have a place to live there for a little while because he is one of the people.
Yeah. And I want to send him a video message, by the way. So I need his number.
Course.
And I haven't done it intentionally because I've just really been thinking of what I want to say to him. It was awesome. Chris Tuff's the man. Check him out.
Yeah. And I look forward and hope that he enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. God knows he did. Yeah. How could he not?
How could he not?
But I hope that we will get him back on soon.
Me too, man.
And I hope at some point, with all the stuff we got going on, hopefully, I'm just putting it out there, as we did with sponsors, I hope that we can do business with him in some capacity.
Well, the interesting thing is we already are, because
we are.
So,
but in another capacity,
maybe not in a direct way. But the good news
I want direct.
But I know, but I'm just saying, but the good news is we already are.
Well, that's true. We
because
are. I didn't think about that.
The podcast platform that we are
signed with,
he's part owner in that.
Oh, my dreams have come true.
Yeah,
I forgot.
So, that's a really big deal. It makes me feel great, honestly, that one of the owners of the company that we're signed with is such a badass dude.
And so's the other owner.
And so is the other owner, who I know. But, dude, I had no idea about this. I didn't even know who this guy was. And now he's like my favorite person.
Now I love him with all my heart.
Love, love, love.
Love, love, love. Scotch, scotch, scotch. And now I've never been in love with another man as much as I am with Chris Tuff.
Now he's first and foremost.
Oh, that's right. I have a poster of him on my wall above my bed.
I'm going to go get some neon glasses.
When you... Oh, my God.
What color should I get?
A hot purple.
Hot pink.
Yeah.
I want hot pink.
Dude, that... If you sent
and then I'm going to send him a video
message,
be like, dude, I'm just trying to just emulate what you're doing.
I'm trying to mirror you.
I'm going to do it, dude. My first thing that I send him is going to be with some neon glasses on, dude.
Hey,
100%.
Hey, sorry, I've been meaning to get a new pair of glasses for so long.
I actually already had these. Something we have in common that you didn't know about.
The tag is still on them.
You're like at the store.
Yeah, because you don't want to buy them. How much more can you get? Oh, my God.
It's hilarious.
Oh, God. And if you're not getting the joke, Chris, I think it's just part of his style, his flair.
Part of his character.
Yeah, it's part of his character. It's part of who he is.
Yeah.
So he wears these glasses, and they're great-looking glasses, but they're like neon.
Like a highlighter.
Like a highlighter, but it also matches all the colors on his website.
No, I mean, he's dope, dude. And the glasses are dope. I mean, they're probably really expensive. I mean, it's a whole thing. Part of his brand.
That'd be awesome if it was just a prop.
What a great way to identify yourself. Separate yourself from literally everyone in the world. Dude, I don't know of anyone else in the world that I can say
that has glasses that
carries that style.
No one.
I mean, he is literally just by that one thing. This is a brilliant guy. He's separated himself from everyone in the world. And then he goes and gets on massive stages.
Yeah.
And so everybody sees it.
You remember.
And so it's just cemented in everybody's mind forever. I'll never forget those glasses.
I've never seen anybody wear glasses like that.
But will you ever forget them in your whole life? I mean, you can be 50 years from now and never talk to him again. You'll still remember those glasses.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I remember seeing this guy with glasses that just are this neon.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you even get those glasses? Like, those had to be custom ordered.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to copy him. That's his style.
I want to turn it into a trend.
Yeah. Do you think he's got different colors? I should have asked him that.
Well, I've watched a lot of his material, and it's the same.
It would make sense for consistency purposes that he would, keep it consistent. It matches his website perfectly.
Another differentiating part of his style and his story are his tattoos.
Very much so, which we had a pretty good conversation about.
And you have an exquisite arraignment of tattoos.
I do. I feel like I do.
Part of your personal brand.
And that's all thanks to my artist, who is like a modern day Picasso, if you ask me, Craig Foster at Skinworks in Carrollton, Georgia, who was on Ink Masters for multiple seasons for snippets or with Dave Navarro and a couple other judges, celebrity tattoo judges, whatever you want to call it, but whose skills are, as far as uniqueness and his style, is completely. Craig Foster is one of those, just like Chris Tuff has embedded his, his style. But Craig Foster's style of drawing, I could pick it out of a lineup anywhere.
Yeah,
if I see someone's artwork,
it's Craig's.
It's Craig Foster. I just know because it's that unique.
I'm gonna do this too, dude.
Portrait of Chris Tuff on you.
Yeah. No, I want to get an artist, dude, that's gonna do some work for me, and it's gonna be. I just like the way that Chris did it, where part of him letting go of his past, part of him letting go of his story so that he could step into this new space in his life, having monuments in his story or the representation of those things tattooed on himself.
Yeah. Well,
and that just was another thing that just struck me. And I was like, that is fucking brilliant, dude. It's great from a conversational perspective if you have really great work.
And if you have the time to tell the story.
And if you have time to tell the story, which he puts himself in situations where that's what he does.
So he has all the time in the world to tell.
So he's got all the time in the world.
If that's the only thing he wants to tell you that day, is that's what he's going to tell you, the story.
So anyway, I don't know.
If I had to put timelines on my right arm, which is the first arm I sleeved, and then when I started moving over to the left, I have similar events.
Yeah.
And I worked at a tattoo shop for 8 years, every day, from time I was 18 to 25, and only had one tattoo. I didn't start getting my sleeves until well after I had stopped working there. I was an owner, and I had moved into different businesses.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like some people, if they ever get a chance to work at a tattoo shop or that's something they end up doing, they start just putting shit wherever.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they had no piercings, no tattoos, and now they are like sleeved
Covered.
out.
Yeah.
They're trying to move as fast as they can to put as much shit on their body without coming up with a reason to put. And I think when you have that reason to put something on your body, to sleeve your arm, to sleeve, it's forever part of your story and not just some image you picked off of a wall at a tattoo shop that ultimately you're like, oh, that little devil head right there. Well, what does it mean? It means a little devil head.
Dude, you know who's got some of the sickest tattoos that I've ever seen and who has done this as well?
Who?
Is Andy Frisella.
Oh, yeah.
Dude.
He's got some cool stuff.
Oh, bro. That guy's got some sick work.
Hey, you know it. It's the ManFUzed Podcast. Thanks for listening. Please share your thoughts. Share the show by hitting us up at manfused.com. 770-744-5227 is what you could use to send us a text or a voicemail. Check out our website. Check out ManFUzed gear, and we'll talk to you soon. This is the ManFUzed Podcast. Hit us up by joining the show, manfused.com or 770-744-5227. Support the show by sharing the show.